Welcome back to a new video, guys. Today we're talking about the science of the most attractive body proportions for women. Now, I am going to make a men's version of this as well, so don't think I'm being sexist. But today I'm going to show you exactly what that is, so how you can calculate yours, and most importantly, how you can get there, so what you need to do to achieve this specific physique. But make sure you stay to the end because I'll reveal the exact ratio and the research that shows what is considered most attractive, the most genuinely attractive body shape and measurements for women overall. Now, obviously, there's going to be differences in terms of like cultural expectations, the time of life that you're living in, right? So whether you lived 100 years ago versus now versus social, where in the world you currently live. So for example, are you living in a poor country? Being more overweight is probably more desirable, but this is just going to give you, on average, the healthiest body that you can achieve whilst trying to maximize your aesthetics. You get the point, right? So this is just a woman, not my client, someone who I found online under the search guidelines of body recomposition, which basically means less fat and more muscle. Everyone who's after weight loss generally means that they want less fat and more muscle. That's generally what the outcome is. Now, as you can see here, just being a lighter person doesn't necessarily mean it's more of a quote-unquote attractive physique. All right, if you're looking to optimize proportions to get as physically the perfect body shape, if you can put it that way, as possible, there are certain requirements that we want to achieve. But this is why we want more muscle and we want less fat, regardless of whether the scale says. And this is why people tend to go through, or at least guys typically, tend to go through cutting and bulking cycles, right? So we have 145 pounds, this person lost a lot of body fat, and then they've recomped their way back up near their starting weight. But most of what she had gained is muscle and probably still continue to lose a bit more fat, right? And you can see the proportions are drastically different from start to finish. Now, again, this is just an example. This is not my client. This is just a very good visual to demonstrate the outcome, right? And by no means is she very unhealthy in the first image. We're just looking to maximize body proportions, aesthetics. Now, if we look into the next slideshow, these two clients I actually train. And both of these women have achieved their healthy waist target, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. So you have two healthy waist targets. You have a number that you want to be healthy. And then you have a low number, which is your aesthetic number, or basically like your low minimum health target. These are probably about a year difference, all right? So from the starting photo to where we are now, you're probably looking at about between 20 to a 30 kilo difference in both of these women, okay? And these are just clients who I've helped achieve this specific waist target that we're trying to get to. Now, from a body fat perspective, what does that look like? For most women, you're probably going to end up at somewhere around, I wouldn't even say as low as 15, it's probably going to be somewhere between that 17 to 20-ish% body fat. Now, just take note, different people, both men and women, store fat differently on their body, right? Some women store it all around the waist. Some women don't. Some women store it all in their hips. Some women don't. Some women have larger chests, some don't, right? It doesn't matter where you store the body fat. Some women can naturally have a really small waist and they just tend to store it more around the lower belly, right? Some women don't. Some women are a little bit more uniform. They just store it a bit more just around the midsection, okay? Ultimately, it doesn't really matter because the ultimate goal is, based on how tall you are, you still want to achieve a very specific waist measurement, which is basically what we're going to go into now. Before we do, I want to give you the extremes of both situations. So both of these women are professional athletes in both of their divisions, right? So you've got a marathon runner who's probably sub 10% body fat, or 10%, sorry, probably around that 15-ish% body fat. And then you've got a professional bodybuilder, obviously probably on copious amounts of drugs because not even I could get this big if I tried. But also very low body fat, probably 15%, maybe potentially below. We don't want this. We don't want to be very lean with no muscle, and we don't want to be very lean with extreme amounts of muscle. There's usually a middle ground, which if you're going for aesthetics is probably what you're trying to aim for. At least that's what people come to me for, in terms of, first, I would like to get healthy and get out of risk of the bad stuff. And then I would like to go for aesthetics. How good can I look? I want to look great in a two-piece bikini on the beach, for example, right? So where does that sit? Now, this is typically where it's probably going to be, right? So not too lean, not too muscular, not huge amounts of muscle, not too little muscle, just basically in the middle, right? So this is probably around that 20-ish% body fat. But you also have very specific ratios that you would like to achieve during this transformation too, right? So there's very specific waist measurements, there's specific hip measurements, and and relation to your height. So there's actually 3 ratio measurements that define your ideal proportions. So first, your ideal small waist. So the lowest you would want to get your waist. Some women can go lower than this, but obviously you have to take into account your personal situation. Is 0.382 times your height, I like centimeters, all right? That is going to be your smallest waist. Now, generally speaking, when you go below this number is usually when you start to get into the unhealthy body fat ranges for most women, not every single woman, right? And that's when you can start to run into potential problems, meaning you may have disrupted menstrual cycles, you may start to lose your period, you may have lost your period. Some women lose it before this point, all right? And it all depends on how you're dieting, your body responds to dieting, how much fat you need to lose, how active you are, stress. There are so many reasons that go into it, right? I'm not saying that you must achieve this, right? If you're losing fat and you're like, yep, I want to look the best possible shape I can for my 20th, 30th, 40th birthday, whatever the occasion is, and you have a problem with your period due to dieting, stop dieting. You need to get back to maintenance ASAP. That should go without saying. Second, you have your waist to hip ratio, and this is going to be more of an approximation, not an exact number. And that is going to be 0.7, meaning that your waist is 70% of your hip circumference. Now, this can be slightly higher and it can be slightly lower. It just depends on how well muscled you are. Different people prefer slightly different body proportions. Some men and or women like bigger bums, some don't, and that is okay, all right? There is no magic number, but 0.7 tends to be about the average, or basically 70% of your waist. And then thirdly is your shoulder circumference. So that should be 1.618, which is pi for all of you people out there who know your aesthetics, times your waist number or your waist measurement. So that creates a typical V shape associated with balance, aesthetics, and proportion. So when these 3 ratios line up together, you have a physique that looks lean, athletic, naturally proportioned, rather than just lighter on the scale, okay? If you don't get to this number, don't think that you're any less of a person, all right? This is just to give you a tangible objective. Some people, when clients come to me, they're just like, Shannon, I want to lose 10 kilos, 50, 20 kilos, however much. And when people leave my program, they have very specific healthy ideals of what's achievable. Now, you may not want to ever get down to these numbers, and that's okay. You don't have to. But they are still healthy and they are still attainable. Obviously, if you want to get leaner and you're not currently at these numbers, it'll take a little bit longer. But let's just give you a bit of an example of what this might look like. So if you're a female and you're 160 centimeters tall, you would take your height times it by this number, gives you a 60 centimeter waist, 61 centimeter waist in circumference, so around your waist, right? This is your ideal or minimal waist number. You probably don't want to go below this number. Now, once you have this number, you're going to take your, or get your hip measurement from your waist. So 61 times 1.42. You can follow along with this, by the way, you can write these down. And this is going to give you a waist, or sorry, an ideal hip circumference of 87 centimeters. Okay. Then number 3, you get your shoulder circumference from your ideal waist number. So 61 times 1.618 equals 99 centimeters. So if I was a female and I just purely wanted to just look good every single day of my life for the rest of my life, these are the ultimate numbers I would be looking to achieve just for general aesthetics. Okay. I would get lean enough that my waist is 61 centimeters on the lowest side, all right, probably no lower than this. I would probably keep building muscle until my hips are about 87 centimeters. So if my waist is here, let's say I've gone through a fat loss phase, and my hips are now 80 centimeters. Well, potentially I've got about another 7 centimeters I could gain, possibly more. Maybe I want an even bigger booty, right? And then my shoulder circumference, if my waist is this number and my shoulder circumference is, let's say, 92, it just means I've got room to grow, which means I have room to gain muscle. Now, can you exceed these numbers in muscle growth? Of course you can, right? But this will just give you hard, tangible numbers that when you are your leanest, at your healthiest leanest, by the way, and the reason I emphasize healthiest leanest is because when you look at people on stage in a bodybuilding competition or bikini athletes, that is usually far well beyond the healthy limits, all right? Most of those women are losing their periods. We don't want that, all right? My job as a coach is always first and foremost health. I want to get you healthy. Once you are healthy, you are free to train for aesthetics in terms of body fat percentage. So this usually is the minimum for pretty much most women across the board. So if you're below this number, you're probably underweight in terms of your body fat. You probably actually need to bring it up. So if I've achieved this healthy waist target, if I was a woman and I haven't achieved a hip target and I haven't achieved this, it just means I've got more muscle I can grow and just improve my overall shape, right? Now, just take into consideration, there are things that are going to vary this a little bit. So there's going to be the average distribution of height. If you're a very, very short female compared to a very, very tall female, you're going to be the outliers of the average, all right? But the closer you are to the average height or the standard average height of women, the more accurate these measurements are going to be, all right? These aren't a hard and fast rule, but these are a general guideline. They're just something very good that you can most likely attain for pretty much most of the population. So just take into account your bone structure. It is genetic and you can't change your bone structure. If you have narrow hips because of your pelvis, you can't change that, all right? This is the hand that you're dealt with. I was dealt with extremely crappy bicep and arm genetics. If you want to see my bicep, look at that little tiny thing there, right? I can fit 4 fingers right in between the belly and the insertion point. I am not winning any bodybuilding competitions anytime soon, right? But you can still improve on what you have, is the main idea. If you have a short torso, you can't change that, right? But what you can change is the muscle mass, your body fat distribution. You can build your hips and glutes and add inches to those, right? If you have a properly designed program. You can reduce your body fat to shrink your waist and you can develop shoulders to balance proportions. So there are things you can always improve, okay? Here we go. So strategy 1, your goal 1. If you are looking at this and you're like, Shannon, sign me up. I want to get to these aesthetic numbers. You've sold me. Number 1, you need to eat in a calorie deficit. You need to get enough protein and you need to stay consistent. Your goal priority right now is just to get to that healthy waist target or that low healthy waist target. You could be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 centimeters away from it. Cool. It just might take you longer to get there. That is all. All right. On average, for context, if I have a client who signs up with me, you're probably looking to lose somewhere about 1 centimeter-ish per week off your small waist measurement, okay? If we go back to the body fat percentage, your small waist is going to be this one here, all right? Priority 1, get enough protein, eat in a deficit, stay consistent, do it for long enough until you hit that waist target. I know it sounds simple, right? It's definitely harder than that, but strategy 2, along the way, you should be weight training. But once you've achieved your healthy waist target, emphasis should now be shifted towards building glutes and shoulder circumference. So if you've achieved your healthy waist target, but your hips are too small, your job is to gain glute size. So you're going to want to prioritize movements such as things like hip thrusts, squats, lunges, Romanian deadlifts, seated hip abductions, okay? Doesn't mean your entire program has to be only that, but in terms of priorities, that should be your priority in the program. You'll probably likely want to train your glutes around 2 to 3 times per week. You can realistically, to give you some context, if you've lost the fat and you're now eating closer to maintenance calories, you can add around 5 to 10 centimeters to your hip circumference over the course of about 6 to 12 months with consistent training. Now, alongside your glute training, okay, or hip training, you should also probably be trying to add size to your shoulder circumference. Nothing crazy, but you want to be building your shoulders. So while you're also building your glutes, if you find that your shoulder circumference is lacking, you can also focus on shoulder-specific movements, such as lateral raises out to the sides, shoulder overhead presses, overall shoulder development, rear delt flies. You can even do a little bit of incline chest press work as well. All right? But you have to take into account proper program design, recovery, stress, time availability to train, all those kinds of things. All right. If someone only has 2 days a week to train in the gym, you're probably going to be doing full body training sessions. If you can train 5 days a week, you can probably do something like a lower body, upper body day, a push-pull leg split or something like that, right? It all depends on how much time available and obviously how serious you are about the program. Obviously, it goes without saying body positivity, right? So women with ratios outside the so-called ideal ranges are still beautiful, right? This has to be said. So you're still healthy, still attractive. Everyone has their own preferences and biases and things like that. So this information is for people who want to optimize their physique for their goals, whether it's aesthetics, confidence, athletic performance. So what this does, these specific ratios is a combination of, yes, it's generally the more attractive side to a women's physique. Mind you, men have a number 2, by the way. You are worth more as a person, and it's not just in relation to your weight and your measurements or your hip ratio, right? But the main takeaway from this should be you want to use this information to empower yourself and not feel inadequate. If someone looks or has these measurements and you don't be jealous. It just gives you something to work towards, all right? Just you work on yourself. It's self-improvement. So the goal is always progress, not perfection. Remember, confidence, health, and how you carry yourself matter far more than your body fat measurements. But obviously, coming from a health background coach, I want you to be healthy and I want you to be happy with your body and how you look. Now, disclaimer, no one is ever 100% happy with their body. Even the best professional bodybuilders who do this for a living, right? They are still not happy with their body. Arguably, they're probably the most unhappy. So the idea and my philosophy around this is basically get lean once. Do it so you never have to lose the fat ever again. Do it to the lower levels of healthy lean, meaning get super lean, look fantastic. Then from there, focus on building strength and muscle without gaining too much fat. And that's it. Get on with your life. Go play some pickleball, whatever you want to do. There is more to life than just training in the gym. Even though I train in the gym for a living, right? I help people. Now, you probably have a million questions. So, questions I usually get from these kinds of videos are, is this possible for me? So my body type is completely different. Can someone like myself actually achieve this? How long will it take? I need to see fast results. How soon will I notice these changes? What if I fail again? I've tried every diet program. What am I doing this right? What if I'm wasting all of my time? Will my partner, husband still find me attractive if I change my body shape? I've had this question before. What if I build muscle and my husband thinks I'm too masculine? I've had that question before. Deserving to invest in yourself. So spending all this money on things like coaching, gym programs, supplements, that kind of thing is a selfish endeavor. But it's selfish for the right reasons, right? People will judge me. Yes, they will. They'll judge you if you do, and they'll judge you if you don't. Again, these are conversations I have with clients every single week. Can I stick to it? I'm terrible at staying consistent. Am I too broken, different, or special? I have things like PCOS, injuries, menopause, etc. This won't work for me. Yes, it will, I promise, because I do this week in, week out with clients. And other things, and the actual tangible. So how do I calculate my calories? What are my calories? How do I work out my training program? How much protein do I need? What should my weekly results look like? How long is it going to take me based on where I am? So if any of these questions are in your head right now, because that's probably what you're thinking, this is what I do for a living, right? I help people online not only get healthy, but improve their physique overall. So if you're looking back at my current clients or previous clients, both of these clients took 1 year. If you gave me 1 year, I would take care of everything for the rest of your life. And you would not only just get the result, but you would also know how to do everything moving forward by yourself from there on onwards. Some people might be starting just a little bit higher than this number. You might even be starting much larger than this, all right? But just know that if I can do it and for this example here, if 2 of my clients can do it, and I've been doing this for 15 years, I guarantee everyone can do it. All right. Now, obviously, if you need help, there will be links in the description below. Feel free to reach out to me via Instagram, and we can chat. We can see if you're a good fit for online coaching. And that's pretty much it, guys. If you have any questions, pop them in the comments below. I will be doing a male version of this, so if you're a guy watching this, don't be alarmed. I'll send you the male version soon. And that's all. All right, guys. Talk to you soon. Take care.